Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, Adam, who's that shot? It's 10th Man, father of a stolen child, Eli, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Morning, morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good
Afternoon, everyone.
morning. And a good morning to everyone watching. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon that's formerly known as Earth curve?
Not from Nottingham.
No, certainly not here.
It's amazing that we have to search for this curve.
No, it's all around us. We just have to look carefully.
Yes, Rumpus did indeed tell us that having a straight line, that would be a tangent, was irrelevant. And then I asked him, well, why did you use it then? Because we had to show it you. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, Nathan, if there was, then anything off the surface of the Earth would have Earth-based Coriolis and helicopters, airplanes, hot air balloons, bullets, all kinds of things like that. We don't see that, experience that whatsoever.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, are we? I will go. It's over there.
In my picture? Behind me, dressed as a spaceman.
Yeah. Yeah, it's right behind you.
I think they're saying now that they don't see physical geometry.
Is there a bit of a delay?
Not really.
We're on to the distance to the sun, John.
Right. Well, they're saying they're not seeing physical geometry, so they can't really measure it anymore.
Oh,
they don't
I
have
see.
art.
Okay, my bad. So you're saying based on... nobody had made the claim, though. That's why I got confused. Nobody had said 93 million miles.
93 million miles.
What was that, John?
No one claims we see physical geometry.
Oh, well, how are you going to get the R value to measure that distance, then? Also, that's a bit of a problem for Einstein, right? Brian's not here. Oh, well. 1 AU,
Well,
right?
we have a problem. Everybody's got to watch out because China sent a rocket out and they lost it, and it's going to come down somewhere, but they don't know where.
Be a bit more detailed. Sent a rocket out. What was it? Out on the town? Out partying?
Yeah, they sent it up into the violation of second law of thermodynamics, the area they call space.
No, they didn't. That's a lie. Who? China? No, China are lying.
Well, what they're saying is everybody watch out because it's coming down somewhere.
Aren't there
It's
people in
lost
that?
in space.
Yeah, it's been all over the news. The Pentagon, the White House, that's all they're talking about today. Yay!
Don't be afraid.
They
Be
gotta
very,
reapply it, right?
very afraid.
It's
That's
a
what I was
really
saying.
good
Oh,
one,
no,
Nathan. Buy into
asteroids.
the fear and have to
Space
accept the paradigm.
That's right.
Now, when you're looking up into the sky, wondering whether a Chinese satellite's going to hit your head, you've already accepted that space exists.
That's why I immediately said
guys.
it's fake. Well, where did they say they sent
Is
it?
it a satellite or a rocket?
Let's just ask the question. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
No,
No.
that's nonsense.
Turn on a
Chinese
fan.
Oh, got lots of...
Fan will do it.
Say again? What will do it?
Turn on a fan and it creates air pressure.
Where'd you get the gas pressure from in the first place?
It's right there.
Okay.
All you got
Wow.
to do is turn on a fan and then you pressurize it.
Turning on a fan in existing gas pressure, though. And I'm asking, how do you have the existence of the gas pressure in the first place without a container?
Well, if he's saying the fan is the antecedent, there's got to be another fan. Can you show us that
No,
other
it's
fan?
not. It's moving existing air pressure. And my question isn't about a change in air pressure, a pressure gradient. These are deltas of the original question. So if you can say, well, I can create this, that, and the other effect within existing gas pressure, it's like, well, that doesn't address my question. Any evidence that you can have that existence of gas pressure before you introduce the fan without a container?
Yeah.
So, that'll be
Yes.
contained.
Yeah, because if a satellite's going to fall from space, then there can't be a container, because otherwise it'd hit the container. And I'm scared it's going to hit me on the head, so there can't be a container.
Wait, that's based on
So you must be able to have gas pressure without a container.
So
I was told to go outside with a barometer, measure the pressure, and there you have it. Gas pressure out
Yeah,
of
that proves
container.
we've got... What does that prove? That proves we have gas pressure. No one's contesting that. But to go outside, say, look, there's gas pressure, therefore there's a sky vacuum, is totally absurd, because look, we have gas pressure, and look up there, there's a volume it's not filling, is a violation of the second law of thermodynamics.
What about Mount Everest, though? They say that you can't even breathe up there. So
No, you can breathe up there. People go up there and breathe.
So it's thinner, the gas that made its way from the ground to the top of Everest, where there's very little vegetation to create any gas, very little life to create gas. There's very little of the cycle's beginnings, but there's still gas there, so it's made its way up. Yeah, that's because it's had an entropy increase to make its way to the top of Everest, for people to still be able to breathe there. Well, it's increased its in entropy and made its way up to the top of Everest. But what, it just stops at the Kármán line and doesn't fill the availability of volume beyond Everest? If it was space
No.
to fill?
Some leaks out. There's some leaking out, though. There's
Leaking out
we
of
do have
what?
escaping gas.
Hold on, Ten. Some leaks out, right, is
Yeah,
to
we have
assert that you've
escaping
got
gas. Absolutely.
a leak in a container. Because in terms of it leaking out, you can quantify that in terms of what it will do. And there's a description of what it will do. It's called an entropy increase. Well, not a little bit would disappear. The gas would fill the space. All
Well,
of
he
it.
said leaks out. Yeah, he said leaks out. So he's already saying there is a containment and there's a place where it leaks out. Is that what he was saying?
Actually, I know. I guess I said that wrong. It just
Okay.
escaped.
So I say it right. Escaped. Escape out of where?
Yeah, see, I don't know how to say this then. Just, it goes-
It escapes from some of it escapes from the non-containment that's keeping the rest that isn't escaping from the non-containment from escaping the non-containment. There you go. How's
Right.
that? You've got,
Very
got,
good.
to be,
Thank you.
got to be able to
It would
repeat
be
that nonsense for me
constantly
to
filling
challenge
that
it in
available
rebuttal, though.
space.
Harb.
Go on. You were saying constantly something. Go on.
Well, it should be constantly filling that available space, not just a little bit leaking out here and there. This one little spot, like a hole in the damn container. There is no container, so be constantly filling that available.
Yeah, all of the gas.
Well, I think we're spinning so fast, it just kind of keeps the gas here. You know what I mean?
No,
We're spinning so fast, and then the sun. We're going around like 66,000 miles an hour. See, we're moving so fast. There's no way it can escape. Right? Is that how it works?
no.
Wouldn't that go outward?
Yeah, but doesn't that force, when you spin real quick, doesn't that keep everything inside?
What centrifugal
No,
force?
no.
No, but that's not what's being claimed anyway. There is no claim that holds the gas here. Gravity is not a force. Centrifugal force
Atmosphere.
would throw it off if that was how gas worked. It isn't. It's just free to expand of its own volition in all directions. And if it encounters anything, be it another gas particle or the walls of a container, it'll bounce off it. That's it.
But how about in pseudo-Riemannian force space? Could the bending of space-time cause it to prevent expanding in all directions and kind of stay in the puddle that would be represented in the 3D world as a ball?
That's where you went
There you
wrong.
go.
Represented in a 3D world. No, 4D space-time isn't represented in a 3D world. It's a conceptual mathematical medium. So no, it has no effect on the 3D world.
But what about the force of gravity
isn't one.
emerging
There isn't
from
one.
pseudo-Riemannian force space, non-force gravity?
That's
You
not
can
a-
calculate it if you
What
like,
about-
but it's
hold
not
on.
real.
Just listen to how Arwin phrases things, right? What about the force of gravity that's in the pseudo-Riemannian? That's a non-force. That was his question.
Right, it emerges from the non-force of gravity.
So a non-force gives rise to a force. And the non-force, which is described in pseudo-Riemannian force space as the bending of space-time caused by the uneven distribution of mass, gives rise, and that's called gravity, by the way, gives rise to, and that's not a force, but that gives rise to a force called gravity. So the not actual force of gravity gives rise to a force of gravity. Is that what you're saying?
Yes!
That's nonsense.
But that's what Fight the Flat Earth said, if I remember
It's still
correctly.
nonsense. Doesn't matter who said it.
I thought it was fascinating.
He's been told by, he's an idiot. He's been told by George Musa, who had on to back him in his claims that gravity was a force. And I quote, to Craig, Fight the Flat Earth, literally, it is not a force. That's what George Musa said to him.
Yeah, I don't think that. I
But
don't think
you
that was.
can think of it as a force. So
No, that wasn't part of that statement.
He took that.
No, that was part of a different statement. That statement was, quote, gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force, end quote. Well, thinking of a car as a baked potato can be done. You can think of a car as a baked potato. It's not a baked potato, but you can think of it as one.
Right, but you could definitely sell it and get a baked potato at some point. So
That's
you
true
can
also.
consider it to be a baked potato.
I can, and you can too. I give you permission. It's
Thank
not,
you.
but you can.
You can get in a crash, Arwin, and think of it as mashed.
Boom, boom.
That's a good one.
Well,
Right, but
we
I
all-
don't actually have a baked potato like that.
we often talk about gas pressure without a container. Do you see what I posted in the chat? Did it even go through? I think it did.
In which chat?
I don't see it. Main
Master
chat? What
B.
chat? Oh no, Lite, I'm on the wrong one. I'm sorry.
It's okay. He's posted it in our special private chat.
I'll post it
In their own
I'll
little
post it in
clique
there
where
too.
we ain't allowed to
Well,
see.
I mean,
That ain't right. That ain't
since
cool.
it's not.
You're gonna get him rumpused about presenting it to me so I can present it to the audience. Okay, I've got it up for you, Eli. Matter in the liquid state. Right.
Awesome. Yes. So this says matter in the liquid state, right? Matter in the liquid state maintains a fixed volume, but has a variable shape that adapts to fit its container. So my question is the outside of a ball a container?
No.
No, it's a surface.
All right, well, I mean, shoot.
Okie dokie. Well, thank you very much.
Well, you got a picture up on your screen that shows the outside of this model of theirs is infinite space. So, no, they're not saying it's a container.
Well, usually,
Go on, John.
Well, usually the way they teach gravity is first you have to accept it as a force before you can accept it's not a force, but it still has that causal power of the force.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, and where do we observe this causal power and evidence scientifically of gravity, John?
Well, first you have to pick something up and then drop it.
Helium balloon.
Okay.
Helium balloon. Is that it?
John.
Moving on. Clearly, moving on. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
I'm afraid my attempts to get Dr. Becky to answer simple questions is put on the side forever. They're into pop science, not real science though, but they like to call it science. And pop science is, looking at things through a telescope and imagining it, and then using calculations, and seeing something black out there and calling it something. I mean, it's just nonsense. And then they actually have school studies on this, and they, from one type of discipline of teaching on the subject to another, then they go to these events where they get pictures with this PhD who's got this one finding. And then when you ask them a simple question, crickets. It's like they live in their own little world of make-believe.
I was going to edit down the bit from yesterday, but after a couple of minutes of watching it, I thought, no, I'm gonna leave this as a full video. It ended up being over almost an hour, over 50 minutes long. But I thought, no, I'll put a little teaser of part of what happens during the show at the beginning, intro, and then I'll just play the whole lot, because I think it was, I can't remember the exact number, but it was over 10 attempts to demonstrate to a fundamentalist religious zealot with a sphere belief that is only here to tell me I'm stupid that his claim of science is not correct, while he's using it to grease the skids of It's Just So stories. Now, that person was a great demonstration of religious zealotry. It didn't matter what I said. It was ignored. It fell on deaf ears, regardless of how concisely it was put to him, how many times it was put to him. If it disagreed with his position, it was ignored. And I thought that's worthy of a separate video, even though it'll be lengthy. So check that out. I am going to release it. I've almost finished doing it. But yeah, check that out. I'll release it in the next day or two, hopefully. A lengthy video of a fundamentalist religious zealot using science, which he didn't have, to make his claim of being capable of acquiring a radius value. Just nonsense. Doesn't matter how much you prove them wrong. They'll just deny it or ignore it in favor of their religion. In this case,
and the most telling part of that, as well as past conversations that were similar to that, is that we even take their source as to what it's supposed to be and ask the question. Like the Black Swan is really their argument. If the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959, it's the best way to beg the question within that modus tollens, and we're giving it to them and saying, if it's this, then this. That even destroys. So just by bringing up,
it's a straw man.
Exactly, chocolate. Exact. So we reference their 3959 and give it to them in the modus tollens. Well, if it is, then this, right? Well, it is, but not that is where they go. It is, but not that. So then it's not.
Which is funny, because if it was that, they would just accept it and say, yeah, of course, if the Earth is a sphere with radius of 3959, yeah, because the geometric horizon is at 1.2 miles. But because it's not, nah. We can't use that. It's a straw man using our radius against us. What do you mean? It's a joke. Anyway, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hey, chocolate. Oh, John, go.
The basis for her calculations is a straw man.
Yes, that's what they're saying. They deny their claim in the first instance, to the degree where they'll say the horizon is not Earth curve.
Yeah, that was the second response that started making me just start bugging out in my brain. Like, wait a minute, do these guys know what they're saying? First of all, they're telling us that this thing that boats are supposed to be going behind, we don't see it, and now their radius is a straw man. What? Like,
shocking.
insanity, man.
But that's where we're at, right? What is it, 6 or 7 years into this argument? That's where we're at. They deny their claim in the first instance. You're supposed to have 15 degrees an hour, turn of the Earth, underneath things not attached. It's called Coriolis effect. Show it me. Well, I can't. We don't claim that. Who says that things turn underneath? I'm going to debunk your claim that you say that we make that things turn underneath. Yeah, that's Coriolis effect. We don't claim that. Give me a citation where we claim things should drift at 15 degrees an hour. By the way, thanks, Bob, for proving that things drift at 15 degrees an hour. We don't claim that. That's what they do.
Well, they do when they say the sun's going over the edge or the sun is setting or the sun, they do claim it because they're saying the Earth is turning at 15 degrees an hour. And that's where they have their problem. If they would just say we're stationary and motionless and then it's the sun moving, they wouldn't have a problem, because when you say the sun moving proves the Earth is turning, well, then great. Get up on an airplane and the Earth should turn under that too, right? Boom, dead, over.
It's useful to hold
Do you
these
have a citation
claims.
for that?
Go on.
Yeah, it's called Pan American, TWA, Delta.
Chocolate.
I was going to say, does 10th man have a citation for all that? Because, apparently they need to be presented citations for their own claims.
They
So, yeah.
even have a private jet named Citation. I can give it to them.
As I say, there's
Well,
certain...
if you accept the citation that you give them, then they'll just say, then you accept the reference is true. So that'll be another red
I
herring.
mean, the funny thing is about them not accepting their own citations is, yeah, citations don't mean anything without any backing to it. So anybody can say whatever, right? But the funny thing is they don't accept their own citations because there's no backing. So keep not accepting your own citations, Glovers. Have fun with that.
You mean like the National Geographic one that you had up the other day?
Yes.
Exactly.
I'll explain that for the audience's benefit, actually. So we have an argument called the Black Swan. If the Earth was a sphere radius 3959, then every distance to horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the distance to horizon in the Black Swan images, including but not limited to the Blackpool Swan, is in excess of the geometric limitations of a sphere radius 3959. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere. Its horizon is not a physical blockage to these turbines, to the boat, to the Isle of Man, as is claimed. Now, when that argument's put to a sphere-believing fundy, their response will be, nobody claims the horizon's Earth curve to block these turbines for this boat to go behind to block the Isle of Man with a tangent-based geometry we assert proves Earth curve. Nobody claims that is their response. Literally, they tell you, we're not claiming it. We say that that position we formerly claimed was an obstruction to these things in the distance is actually a refracted, non-geometric position that cannot give us the maths to assert its Earth curve, and it isn't Earth curve, it's a refracted non-Earth curve position, but it's based on the geometric Earth curve we can no longer acquire. That's their response. So they deny their claim in the first instance. Then you point out to them that their claim requires a geometric Earth curve edge horizon. It's in their geometry, marked as horizon. And they have claimed that it's a geometric sphere edge getting in the way of turbines, the Isle of Man, Barrow-in-Furness, the list goes on. But they then don't know where to go, because what are they going to do? Deny that they have an Earth curve edge that's geometric? Because they've just told us it isn't capable of being seen and only exists in the maths? Or are they going to say we do have a geometric horizon, in which case, well, we've just explained that the Black Swan debunks that geometric sphere edge horizon. It's beyond the geometric limitations, therefore not a geometric horizon. So they're screwed both ways. Refraction? Oh, what's that? Oh, of course. Lest I forget that they've got that cracker of a response. Well, refraction in their globe model is based on the R value. 7/6 of the radius value in standard form. Standardized terrestrial refraction, shortened to standard refraction. But it's based on R. And where do they get R? Well, they get it from the edge of a sphere. It's the distance from it to the centre. That's what a radius is. And if you haven't got one, then you haven't got the geometry to bend the light around the sphere or bend the horizon around the sphere, which wasn't asserted when we debated about what was claimed to be proving the horizon was Earth curve. Now it's not. Well, that's just the end of the model. It's paradoxical. It only exists in the maths. We've even had that as a disclaimer. Quote, the geometric horizon only exists in the maths. Well, that's Earth curve. Earth curve only exists in the maths. But what's that you say? The thing that only exists in the maths is the cause of the horizon? No, it isn't.
Well, why don't you show us where the globe claims that this geometric horizon is visible?
I can't stand it. There is a geometric horizon. It's just not spherical geometric horizon. It's
Yeah,
flat
Bev pointed that.
geometric horizon.
Bev pointed that out to me, and I immediately had to concede in that point, and you're right, Arwin. But he trimmed it out as Nathan concedes geometry. I'm like, you bastard with the clickbait title. I mean, don't get me wrong, you've only got to get 30 seconds into the video to realise it's just clickbait. But by the same token, I was like, well, technically, true. You know what I mean? He's got me there. I was like, good on you with the clickbait title, Bev. Shout out to you, my friend. Also, shout out to you fighting the good fight in the chat there, Arwin. I was watching it go by. Epic stuff. Any evidence?
They keep trying.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Oh no.
Well,
No,
they
there
have
are-
tests and models. It's just there's no actual confirmation that any of the tests or models are real.
Yes, the models
The
are
Black
real.
Swan killed that too, Nathan.
Indeed, yeah, you've got to have a centre of a presupposed spherical
Well,
Earth for the molten or
They would
solid
be
iron
if they
core
were
to be at.
scientific models.
Say again, Chocolate?
Colin said none of those models have been tested. That's because they're not scientific models. Because then they would have been through science. It would have been tested and validated, and we wouldn't need to talk about it.
What scientific? The only scientific models I know are really hot chicks that do science, but are also models on the side.
All right.
Days to confuse.
Citation.
Just Google pictures. There's also models pretending to be science to promote it. You could call those scientific models too, I guess.
What haven't we had? Have we had all the housekeeping questions? Sure, I've missed one. No, I
To
think
do
that is
the
it.
astrophysics and all that.
Yeah, covered gravity, astrophysicists, no scientific evidence thereof. Axial rotation,
pressure.
Earth curves, distance to the sun, molten iron core. Ah, got
Gas
it.
pressure.
No, covered that as
Oh, we
well.
did.
Covered that. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Almost forgot about that one.
Thank you.
Wouldn't you need curvature for that?
Yeah,
The
you'd need.
Kosho should be speaking up, huh? How about the Kosho? I see you.
I don't see him.
Hey, incognito.
Yeah, like
Kosho, reveal yourself, Kosho.
it's like Earth curve. It's incognito.
Kosho's like the geometric horizon. You don't expect to see him.
Kosho was sent away on a task if it is him, because he didn't think weather was real last time he was here. And I was like, obviously, we've just spent some of this show talking about their refracted R value that they automatically apply. You know, why wouldn't you automatically apply a value that bends light around sphere Earth? We have atmosphere, right? Well, when it comes to making up a straw man claim that flat earthers don't claim, they just remove all effects of the weather. And I pointed that out to him and said, go and get the weather data, the legacy data for the claim that was made that Kosho didn't know anything about, but simultaneously had all the data for the camera that the picture was taken from, because he's a liar.
No, he
Wait,
told me.
hold
He
on,
told me.
Mr. Hurricane's 100% move in a straight line thinks weather isn't real.
That's not what he said to me on Gem Panda. On Gem Panda's server, he said that Nathan would not allow him to give an answer because Nathan knew that he had the right answer. Come on, Kosho, tell him.
When the baller wants to say weather is not real, the argument gets a bit long-winded.
All they need is 10 more seconds.
Yeah, when they're making a straw man argument claim that we don't make, then in their straw man argument claim that we don't make, they'll say, don't need weather. Why? Well, because the flat earthers wouldn't have weather. Oh, really? Would we not? Yeah, we would. But Kosho was sent on his
What?
way,
No.
tail between his legs, to go and get the legacy data for the weather, for the observation he didn't have a very good idea about, but simultaneously had all the data on the camera that took the picture. Shocking.
Doesn't matter. Weather doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Yeah, their mood points.
Everything's becoming irrelevant to these people.
Yeah, said it won't make any difference. It's the same every day. And then Anthony Riley points out that some days you can't even see the mountains. So, as I get Fundy muted, some days you can't even see the mountains because of the weather that, when making a straw man claim that flat earthers don't make, is apparently irrelevant.
You really want to
Yeah,
have
we're
fun
always
with Kosho how Hurricane's move.
I speak to Kosho all the time, and I understand. I've heard he's not able to speak over here. I'm actually hearing Nathan Oakley for the first time on here ask you a question, and I'm not being rude, hon. I'm not trying to call you out. I just don't understand why you're not saying anything unless you just don't have time to talk. But they are actually trying to get you to speak, and I'm actually a witness to it this time.
They're always allowed to speak. They always say the same crap. They're always given ample time. I mean, Nathan, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the most patient people I've ever heard. Over and over and over, he will repeat himself.
Okay, can you shut up already? Shout out to LV23 for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
Well, the real problem is they like to answer questions no one asks.
Yep.
And after
That's
the third,
exactly
fourth,
true.
fifth, sixth time, it just gets really bothersome. Or they'll just say, well, your question is malformed or it's irrelevant. I mean, what the?
Well, the biggest problem they got is when they start with the fallacious reasoning and you say, okay, you can't assume the outcome, you need to prove it. And then they keep continuing. And then later they get off the show and say, yeah, he wouldn't let me talk. He cut me off. Well, your argument's fallacious. Why are we going to waste everyone? I mean, unless you can prove that us saying it was fallacious was wrong, which they never do.
Anyway, have we got the weather data or what?
That's going to be
I
85.
need the weather data on those hurricanes.
You know, I have been hearing a lot about you. Nathan,
Any of
lately
the
on
flatties
shows.
want to have fun. Ask Kosho how hurricane winds move. That'll be a great one.
It gives you a straight
All
answer,
people are saying
Chocolate.
lately, Nathan, is you don't give anybody time to speak, and whatever they say, you don't want to hear about. Their proof you don't want to hear about, and that's just for me ridiculous. Because like I told them, someone just said a second ago, if you come in here with BS, yeah, you're going to shut them down real quickly. But if you actually had some evidence and some verification, then yeah, Nathan will hear you. But that's the problem. There is no actual evidence or verification. So as soon as they start speaking, yeah, you're going to shut them down if it's not true. You're going to say stop right there and go on and continue with what you have to say because you're about verification.
I'd hope so. I mean, like I say, the video that's going to come out that I say trimmed out, I did make a few minor edits because I used the C word several times. So I edited those out. But other than that, it's unedited. It's just as is, hence it's very long. But right at the beginning, the guy comes on, I clear the airways for him, let him make his claim in full, and then start to address it.
So again, they're just saying a bunch of lies like normal. And
Right.
Now we verified that.
The issue is there's no problem believing in the globe. There's only a problem defending your belief with reality.
Back to Arwen's epic quote. They want to live on a sphere. They just don't want the consequences of living on a sphere.
Which is stupid. Why would you want to live on a sphere?
Because that's what the Western world believes.
Especially when you live on a flat plane.
Right.
Because then none of the movies would make any sense. That's why. That's the only reason I could find.
They all show you a flat plane until they go into the space. But other than that, anything that's filmed on the ground, that's flat, stationary. It's how we experience it. I don't get where they transfer that into Star Wars land. And they just want to
Have any evidence of that?
ball. Yeah, I live
Can
here.
you prove the Earth is flat? This is what they ask me all the time. Can you prove the Earth is flat?
Yeah, Black Swan.
Hold on. Yes, I can. We take measurements. Everyone measures it as flat.
Correct. I added that to my replies.
Prove the Earth.
Obviously, observably and measurably flat. Now, I don't know if I'll add navigationally flat onto that as well, but it's true. You know, we deal with a flat world. That's just a fact. The extraordinary claim is that we're on a sphere.
I bought this little lighter yesterday at the shop, and it has an astronaut on Mars looking at some other planet. I picked it up, I showed it to the girl. I was like, yeah, because this is what we do. And she started laughing. She doesn't believe it either.
Yeah,
it's funny. You go around and I don't know. Maybe it's because of where I live. People see. I don't know. But there's a lot of people that don't buy the whole ball thing around here. A lot of flat earthers, mostly fishermen.
As I say, we experience a flat world, and often from the heliocentric religious side, their priesthood will declare it, how flat it is. And that's because that's what you have to deal with. That's what you experience. That's what's measured and shown in Google Earth. That's the reality of your situation. There aren't any representations that will give you the actual claim measured out at 8 inches per mile squared. That's something that you will compare a picture you take with a mathematical reification in side view, Muppet vision, orthographic view, without perspective, targets not changing with their size and the distance. 10-foot wall at 1,000,000 miles still being able to be drawn, with you still being able to see it. All ludicrous. But that's where the Earth curve lives. In a reified Earth curve horizon that we don't have anymore. So it's the end of the road for the model. There's nowhere else for it to go. It would have gone somewhere in the last 18 months since the Blackpool... I keep calling it the Blackpool Swan now, but the original Blackpool Swan came out. What have they got?
The Earth curve is like Freddy Krueger. It just lives in your dreams.
It does. Lives in the maths. Doesn't live anywhere else. There is no Earth curve edge horizon. Yeah, they claim boats go over it, until you realise that it doesn't. And then you point out how and why it doesn't. And in the case of the flat Earth debate, we're now in a position where they're telling us it's not real. They're telling us it only exists in the maths. They're telling us we can't see it. And now we're asking them, why did you show it us at the Isle of Man then? Why did you draw a tangent to it then? And the answer is simple, because that's what their claim is. They're just denying their claim now, because we've debunked it.
Yeah, when they have a calculation that is based on a measurement they take to the horizon, now they're denying that calculation to try to keep that calculation. It doesn't make any sense. Even if you grant them refraction, it destroys the model.
Unitox Femu or Sasha from the chat says, maybe globers are claustrophobic because of a closed system, and then everything is coming from their mind. I mean, I think it's kind of the other way around. If you've got a completely open, empty space and you're a speck of dust in an infinitely expanding soup of nothingness, then you can have a very nihilistic outlook on life. Not a lot matters.
That's another phobia. I don't know how to for open space. I don't know how it's named, but it exists also.
What exists?
The phobia of open space, of open. You know, claustrophobia. It's a closed space,
Agoraphobia.
and you have you have opposite of
Agora,
that.
I
Yeah.
think.
Agoraphobia is
The fear of going
open spaces.
outside, right?
Yeah, agoraphobia.
Yeah.
Or agoraphobia, some people call it. But anyway, yeah. The fear of wide open
Yeah,
spaces.
that will not prove the globe. Yeah.
But that is, in some way, something I've experienced, if you want to call that agoraphobia or agoraphobia, back in the day when I was a heliocentrist. You know, you'd think of the infinite expanding universe and how insignificant you were, and it would be a little bit scary.
I was a geocentrist. I was never a heliocentrist. Never worshipped the sun.
Well, now I'm thinking about
Yeah,
the
but
term.
maybe it's-
Well,
maybe
I'm
it's
putting
scary.
it together myself, but geophobia, right? Because I mean, we investigate these things. We just go wherever the information takes us. They refuse to deal with the information. They're geophobic.
I don't think it's
Yeah,
geophobia. I
that's
think
good.
it's zealotry. The word zealotry. They're zealots.
It's the world religion, folks. Everybody's waiting for this new world religion to come out and fool everybody. Guess what? Everybody's already been fooled.
Exactly.
It's called the heliocentric model.
Yeah. The heliocentric religion. Heliocentrism is
Correct.
the religion. Heliocentrism is what you're part of. You just don't even know it. And your westernized world religion, which may become considered as the one world religion, will be heliocentrism. That would be the sun at the center of your world, an ever-expanding space in violation of the second law of thermodynamics. That's your religion. Now, the people who we point that out to, when I say they're zealots, the example would be, again, in the show that I'm going to release in the next couple of days, where the guy has his position taken apart quite concisely on multiple occasions. But when that happens, there's a short pause. He'll ignore all of it and then either ask for more time or repeat the claim again. And you're like, well, your claim's been taken to pieces. Now, in that instance, it's a claim of science, having a scientific validity to a just-so-story presupposition. You're like, well, you haven't got an independent variable that can be varied. He claimed Earth turn, science thereof. It's like, well, you can't vary that if that's your independent variable. Claim cause of the effect you're claiming. Which is non-existent, but we didn't even get into that. It's like, you haven't got science. Now, he still wants to believe that that story he's been told or he has read is science. So therefore, he cannot hear the fact that it isn't. It cannot process. It will not process. And you end up in a position where you have to repeat the same thing 13 times, with them conceding the points. No, I can't vary my variable. Well, then it's not science. Short pause. But I can calculate blah, blah, blah. That's zealotry.
He can measure the controls.
Well, he was saying that the control variables, are going to be causing the independent variable to have the effect on the dependent variable. I've extrapolated out his logic, but that's what he was saying. The controls cause the independent effect. That's essentially the shortened version. I can't paraphrase him perfectly. I can't quote him verbatim because he was foreign. I don't know how to paraphrase exactly how he phrased it. But nevertheless, that's essentially what he was saying. The controls
He was saying you
cause...
can measure the control.
Yeah, I can measure the
Yeah, I
controls.
remember
and
because he
they
said it
cause
like
the effect.
15 times.
Yeah, it's just ludicrous. But then we asked him, well, what's a... I think the way I phrased it was, what's a constant variable? Now, I was caught out by that on my QE, I'll just confess now. It was like, because it was a term I hadn't heard. Like, what do you mean, constant variable? That's a double... That doesn't make sense, right? If it's varying variable, then how is it constant? That makes no sense. Well, it's something that can potentially vary, but you hold it constant. Constant variable. That is what it's actually called. It's just your CV. Constant variables, right? IV, DV, CV. Well, if you've never heard it phrased that way, and you're like, well, we've got controls, we've got constants. Okay. Well, what is your constant variable? What's the status? What does it mean? And the guy didn't know. Why? Well, because he's pretending he's got science. When it's called out as not being science, he doesn't know what he doesn't know. It's total Dunning-Kruger. Shout out to Bobby Zines, who says, here's a few quid for reaching 130 viewers. Well, thank you very much.
Didn't Rumpus give the whole show away when he said it only exists in the maths?
Yeah. Earth curve only exists in the maths.
Well, there you go, folks.
Yep. And then I tried to ask him, so the boats are disappearing behind the maps?
Basically, yeah. But yes, basically.
What?
They're saying the horizon is
Even
caused
the-
by Earth curve. Earth curve only exists in the maths. Therefore, boats going over the horizon with an assertion of Earth curve is boats going over something that's caused by maths. Yes, that's correct, Chocolate.
Well, if you refract the horizon, though, you don't have nothing to base your mathematics on.
Precisely. And that's the Black Swan. 18 months down the line, hopefully it's starting to sink into the fundies when they bark refraction. Now, little do they know that there's method in John's madness. You know, he's going to put this particular photo up for a reason. I found out after the fact when he sneered at me, or sniggered, I should say, not sneered. When he sniggered at me, he was like, yeah, I want the one with the bendy grains, and I want them to say refraction. It's the death knell of their argument, because they've no longer got the geometry to claim if they haven't got a tangent. As soon as you refract the horizon, you're debunking your argument that the horizon's Earth curve. That's the end of the argument. Now, yeah, it's taken them a while. They still come in and go, refraction, and Dunning-Kruger, because they don't understand the argument. They don't know what they don't know. They just think that's the response, because they've been handed it by people who they perceive as more intelligent than themselves. And when they say refraction, well, that's obviously the end of the argument, right? Well, no, your refraction's based on R. When you point that out to them, they go, well, I can still get R. Well, no, you can't. You've just told me you can't measure it or see it. Yeah, but in the maths I get the R, and then I make the horizon be that mathematical... No, you don't. That's nonsense. It's a reification fallacy. Shout out again to Unisox Femu, who says 50 million reason... Oh, it's gone off my screen. 50 million reason per day is too much, to be honest. I think it's 53 million now. It's NASA you're referring to there. 53 million a day.
Well, I'm getting slammed for that religious remark in your little chat over here.
Which religious mark?
Even Kosho's busting on me.
In the chat.
Kosho's
Yeah,
still
the
here.
main
He's not
chat, not
speaking.
the privy chat.
What happened? He doesn't like us today?
Oh, well.
Come on, Kosho.
Yeah, he's
What's going on, man?
Doesn't got any
Let's
weather
just
data,
call him
clearly.
no-show.
He had weather
Hold
data.
on, I've
It's
been
hyped
going
up.
on. I've been
That's
going
usually
on.
what he's called.
Is talking to him, so he can come on here and talk to me.
He's trying to get the weather data. And we'll hear from him when he does.
What? No.
And now for the weather. Hurricane winds are moving 100% in a straight line. And now sports.
Look, no poisoning the well. He's had chores. You know, I'm sure he's going to come back with slightly more coherent response than nothing ever changes, weather's not real.
Did you say coherent?
Yeah.
When does he ever come back with something coherent?
I
Who
don't
said
know that.
incoherent dielectric acceleration? Again with that?
Well, like I say, last time it was
nobody.
weather doesn't change the image. Don't need it for our flat earth straw man we're burning. Oh, yeah.
Who in the right mind would ever say hurricanes move in a straight line?
Somebody who understands the principle of Coriolis deviation, which would be to assert that there's a not actual deflection of something in the air, therefore for you to perceive a hurricane to be turning as a result of you turning beneath it on a claim to be turning Earth, then that would imply that it's travelling straight and only perceived to be turning because you're moving underneath it as claimed in Coriolis. But that would need your hurricanes to be travelling straight for that Coriolis claim to make sense on a turning Earth. Obviously, they've got actual spin directions as opposed to not actual deflection Coriolis effect. That's why it's been claimed that way. Cognitive break.
Well, wouldn't that also not actual deflection also be appropriate for other things that are not on the surface of the Earth, as the Earth is claimed to be turning underneath it?
Anything not attached would deflect at 15 degrees an hour.
Well, that's a good way to verify if the claim is true in the first place. So
Well,
if
showing
a drone
something-
goes and hovers,
Yeah,
what
showing
happens?
anything deflecting at 15 degrees an hour would be a good way of proving their claim that things drift at 15 degrees an hour because we turn underneath them to cause Coriolis. It's just a shame nothing demonstrates that effect whatsoever, in spite of them claiming, as Neil deGrasse Tyson does, that a ball is deflected through a goal because Earth turned beneath it. Or their claims in the trenches that snipers have to lead their targets because the Earth turns beneath the bullet.
What's the definition of Coriolis again, Nathan?
The not actual deflection experienced from a non-inertial turning reference frame.
That it doesn't use all of those words. Can you try again, please?
Can you suck my balls?
Why, you don't understand all those words?
I knew Ed was
What's
coming
wrong with
back.
you?
Right, why? Have I made a Coriolis claim? Who's claiming Coriolis? You or me?
You're claiming a specific definition of it, so can you read the actual definition, please?
I don't have one to hand, I just know what it is.
Apparently you don't. Can you please look it up and display it on the screen so everyone
Really?
knows you know what you're
What do
talking
you
about?
say?
Listen to this
Well, first and
clown.
foremost, who's claiming Coriolis here? Because I'm not claiming Coriolis. Maybe you think this is a Simon Dan situation where you need to debunk my reference frames that I'm not claiming?
You're claiming a specific definition, so again, can you pull up the actual definition on the screen, please?
No.
This is the saddest tactic I've heard yet, bro.
Really? You're not
This
going to do
dude
it?
needs to go.
Can I read the
This
definition?
dude is
and post it
nothing
in
but
the
a
chat?
troll, and just get rid of him.
You hear that tremble in his voice?
Can I read the definition?
Yeah, it's
Can I
pretty
read the
cold
definition
outside.
that he asked
So,
for?
did you think I asked to joke around? I'm
You can't.
asking you for a
Whoever's
reason.
asking to read the
What's the
definition out
real
for him,
definition of
he's not going to
Coriolis,
shut up.
Nathan?
Somebody from the background said they want to read the definition. Now, I don't care if
Eli.
you do or you don't. If you want to, you can. But I know what Coriolis effect is. I can detail it very specifically and clearly and concisely for
I
an
don't think you
audience.
do.
Oh, really? Who's making the claim, I
Yeah.
asked. Why do we need to do this, was my original question. Who's claiming Coriolis?
You are claiming a specific definition of Coriolis.
So this isn't
So
a Coriolis
again, can you
debate.
pull up the definition,
Okay,
please?
okay, that's fascinating. We're not here to debate the definition of Coriolis, though, are we? So who's claiming this effect of Coriolis for us to want to or need to debate about it? Because I don't want to debate the definition of Coriolis with you. I want to know who's claiming it. You don't seem
Right.
to want to
I
answer,
wonder why
though.
you don't want to do that.
Well, I'm wondering who's claiming it. Why would it be under discussion? And the reason he doesn't
Well,
want to
again,
say me...
you are claiming a specific definition.
That's true. And?
Right.
And?
So can you pull up the actual
Why?
real definition on
Why?
the screen, please?
Why?
So you can demonstrate you know what you're talking about?
And why would we be talking about it?
You just talked about it, so can
And
you
why?
demonstrate
Why
you
would
know
we
what
be
you're
talking about it?
or not?
Hey, Globe Defender, you seem reluctant to want to state this as a globe claim. You seem to want to flip the burden of proof onto me to get me to cite a definition of Coriolis because I'm claiming Coriolis? No, I'm not. What did I claim has the effect? I can give you a demonstration of Coriolis with a verbal representation that's concise and clear for an audience if you wish. I don't need to cite it. I can verbally describe it accurately and concisely, and already have done. It's the effect of not actual drift observed from a non-inertial turning reference frame. That is Coriolis. Don't have to like it. Why would we be discussing
Right,
it,
so
though?
that's not what I said. Why are you switching it? I never said you claimed Coriolis.
Who does then? Who does claim Coriolis? Why would we be discussing this effect?
So you're saying that he
Claim
claimed
a very
Coriolis, that
specific
he claimed
definition
the
of Coriolis.
definition of Coriolis? Ed, this is sad as
He
shit.
claims a very specific definition. Yes. So again,
Okay,
can you pull up the actual definition, please?
Why?
So we can compare the two.
Can you prove that his definition was wrong?
I did though.
Why do you think
He
I'm
didn't stop
asking him to
talking
pull
to
up
hear
the
it.
definition? No.
Okay, fine. Someone's given a
Huh?
definition. I'll put it on screen for the audience. Who cares? Same as my definition. Mine's better. It's more concise.
So you're changing the definition.
I didn't
Understood.
say a
Thank
thing.
you.
I said mine's better. It's more concise. I've put it up for my audience.
And is that your definition or the actual definition?
That's a definition.
That's not what I asked.
Right,
What's
why
your
are we
point?
discussing
I've
Coriolis
I've
effect?
given three. Hold on, Ed. I've given 3 sources. All I did was type in Coriolis. Gives little graphics of the globe and it explains or defines what it is. So, without further ado, can you allow
so can
us
you
to
read out one and compare it to Nathan's edition?
Oh, this isn't my position. Oh, I'm glad you said it that way, finally. Oh, this isn't my position, Ed.
I said edition.
Maybe Fundy mute the point, which is that this isn't my position, Ed. As much as you'd like it to be. It's not my position, it's yours. Look, it's got a globe Earth on it. That's definitely not my position, Ed. So, as much as you were hesitant to qualify why this discussion is taking place in regards to Coriolis, it'd be because you have a claim of it, don't you, Ed?
I said your edition, not your position.
Oh, I don't have one. I don't have any requirement whatsoever for
Yeah, you do.
Coriolis effect. It's a globe position I take apart based on the fact we don't see any deviation. So therefore, there's no Coriolis effect. And it's claimed to be the proof we spin. We just don't observe it. So therefore, it's not a proof we spin. We don't experience it.
Right, but you didn't read the actual
You didn't give us one. I put it up on screen. I put 3 different ones up on screen, though, for an audience. They matched mine. As I say, mine's better because I said it more concisely.
No.
Okay, hand wave. Well, that's wonderful. Meanwhile, it's your
so
claim
you're
we're
changing it
debunking.
to
It's not my
super
claim that you
narrative?
need to Fundy mute every time I open my mouth to point that out. It's your claim. You claim Coriolis effect on a globe Earth. We don't have that effect. Nothing's drifting away at 15 degrees an hour as I turn beneath it. That doesn't happen.
Come on, Ed. You
Why
asked
is it
for a
he was- why
definition.
the
Right, so you're
definition wrong?
using your definition and not the definition then?
No, I put a
Elijah
definition on
posted-
screen which matched my definition, and it doesn't happen. We don't experience that. That's the third time I've pointed out that we don't experience your globe claim of Coriolis that we don't have. Definitely not my claim to debunk now, is it? As much as you want to ascribe it to me by saying, well, you're talking about Coriolis, therefore I'm going to be here debunking your understanding of Coriolis, because this is Coriolis debate, as opposed to flat Earth debate.
Ed's afraid to give us his definition.
Right, so
because
can you
he
read
knows
out
it
the
won't match
actual
the ones on
definition
the
then,
screen.
instead
So
of
he's wasting time.
Why?
Capping
Why
what
would
it's
I need to
supposed
cite
to
it?
says?
Ed, I'm not making a claim of Coriolis, therefore I don't need to back my claim of Coriolis with a citation of what Coriolis is. I'm not claiming it. That's the 5th time I've pointed that out, Ed. What I'd like, before you interrupt me, is for you
Yeah.
to acknowledge
And it's
my
the 5th
response.
time
Before
I
you
told
interrupt
you
me,
you
before
claim a specific definition.
before you Fundy mute me, I'd like you to acknowledge my response. You've come here to ask me about my definition of Coriolis and how I have cited it and used it. And I've responded, while I can talk about all sorts of things all day long, if I'm not actually making any claims about Coriolis, there's no requirement for me to cite it, Ed. However, there is a requirement for you to cite it and define it, given that you're claiming it on a globe. We just pummel it here. Now, I know you don't like that. You'd prefer it was our claim you could challenge. It isn't. It's your claim we challenge and debunk. Sorry if that offends you.
Sorry, not sorry.
It's not offending me.
Ed is
Not
afraid.
deflect.
Ed is afraid of.
This is corny, Ed. Ed, this is so corny, bro. Like, you don't even actually want to defend the claim. You want to defend. You want to argue his definition of your claim.
Yes, that's
Do
correct.
you realize how ridiculous that is?
Well, that was the standardized position, Chocolate, up until a while back. The position was to attack a flat earther's comprehension of Coriolis effect, rather than argue about the awkward detail that they don't actually have it. Much easier to challenge our understanding of this effect, and then juxtapose it with the conservation of angular momentum when they don't have that either, and argue about that instead, because they don't actually have any deviation at 15 degrees an hour, which is their claim. So much easier to argue with our understanding and make it our claim, which it isn't. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!